Before starting the video, click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Hello everyone and welcome to House of Commerce. Today we are going to discuss about errors and their rectification. So stay tuned and watch the whole video to understand the lecture clearly and properly. So there are four types of errors in accounting system, and that are number one, error of transposition, number second, error of omission, and number third, error of commission, and in last, error of principle. Now let's have a look at what these error means. Now let's define all these errors separately. On number one, errors of transposition. This error means that you have made a mistake while recording the amount. That in example you can see that you had to record 9,700 and you have recorded 7,900 instead. This error can be made on both sides of debit and credit, and this error can be on one side either, that you have made a mistake on debit side but the credit side is written with the right amount. So what will happen then we'll study later, but here we are discussing about the errors only. Then error of omission. In English, omit means to escape or to miss out something. So error of omission means that the accountant has missed out the entry. For example, if the accountant is doing the entries and sequence wise he is coming, so he has done entry number 1, he has done entry number 2, and suddenly he skipped the entry number 3 and he jumped up to entry number 4. So this is called error of omission. Then error of commission. This means that you have passed a wrong account entry. For example, you had to record the telephone expenses, but you have recorded electricity expense instead of telephone expense. So how to make it correct, we'll study it later. Then on number 4, errors of principle. Principle error means that you have made a mistake in any of the accounting rule. As you can see in the example, that recording the capital expenditure instead of revenue expenditure. So what are that we have discussed in the video. You can see that what is the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. But let me explain again that capital expenditure are the expenditures which are added up into the cost of asset, but revenue expenditures are expensed out. So if the accountant has mistaken in recording the rules of accounting, so this is called error of principle. Now let us take a look on the first example. A business has recorded rental income of 21,800 as a credit balance in the rental expense account. The rental expense account has a credit balance of 21,800 now, but it should have been recorded as rental income. So how would he make it correct? To remove the error and to reduce the account balance to 0, he has to change the side from credit to debit. So what will he do? He will debit the rental expense account to reduce it from the credit side, and the rental income that should have been recorded on the credit side, now it shall be recorded on the credit side. So the correct entry shall be rental expense debit and rental income credit. Now let's take a look on example number 2. A business has recorded discount allowed of 20,600 as a debit in the discount received account. Now what he has to do to make this entry correct, that he has to make that account at the debit side which should have been recorded on the debit, and to reduce the wrong account he should credit it. Now the discount allowed had to be debited and the discount received should have been reduced now. So for doing this, he will debit the discount allowed account and credit the discount received account. Then the entry will be correct. Now let us discuss about a title of account which you have heard before, but mostly listeners does not have heard about it. Suspense account. The account used to correct the errors directly affecting the trial balance either from debit side or credit side. Now, if the account is being affected from debit side and not from the credit side, then the trial balance will be out of balance from debit or either credit side. There, the suspense account is used so that the debit and credit side of the trial balance will be equal from both sides. Now let us take a look on the first example of suspense account. Here we have an example that a receivable has been recorded by 1080. What should have been recorded is 1800. Now you can see that receivable is under recorded by 720. Now all you have to do is to increase the receivable which was under recorded. So for increasing the receivable, we have to write it on the debit side. And there is nothing to be written on the credit side. So what you have to do, if you will not write anything on the credit side, then the trial balance will be out of balance from credit side by 720. So now it is the time to record the suspense account so that the trial balance will be equal from both sides. So the entry shall be receivable debit and suspense account credit. Now let us take a look on second example of suspense account. A payment to a supplier 23,500 has been recorded in the cash book account and the journal ledger but has not been recorded in the trade payable account. So if you have made a payment to the supplier or creditor, so you have credited cash or bank or whatsoever, so it has been recorded at the credit side, but the debit side has not been recorded. What will happen now? That trial balance will be unequal by 23,500. Now you have to debit the trade payable which was omitted to be recorded, which was missed out and not recorded. Now you will debit the trade payable account and there is nothing to be recorded on the credit side, then you will record the suspense account on the credit side. Therefore, the debit and credit side shall be equal. Example number 3. A discount allowed of 4,000 expense has been recorded as a credit entry in the discount received account. Now, the discount received account should not have been credited by 4,000, but it had been recorded by the accountant. Now, all you have to do is to reduce this amount first. So what you have to do is to debit discount received account, and the original entry of discount allowed should also have been debited. So you will do the same thing, and by debiting discount allowed you have a total of 8,000 on the debit side. Now it cannot be posted into the trial balance now because it will balance out the trial balance by 8,000. Now the entry of suspense account will arise and it shall be credited by 8,000 so that debit and credit side shall be equal. Another example that will give you more clear concept regarding the suspense account. As we have discussed before, that suspense account is an account which arises when you have nothing to post either on the debit side or credit side. So here in the example you can see at number 1 that purchase book was undercost by 5,000. Now what will happen here? That purchase is undercosted by 5,000. All you have to do is to increase the purchase. Now purchase as an expense, when it will be increased, it shall be debited. So you will debit the purchase by 5,000 and you have nothing to write at credit side. So for making the trial balance equal, you will have to write on the credit side the suspense account. Then on number second, you have sales book was overcosted by 2000. Means the sale was recorded at the credit side by 2000. So you have to reduce it by 2000. Now 2000 shall be debited to reduce the sale by 2000, and there is nothing to write on the credit side, so the suspense account shall arise at the credit side by 2000. Now I hope that you have got the clear idea that what the suspense account actually is. Now let us take a look on few of the examples. Example number 1. Purchase of the building was recorded in the purchase book amounting to 10,000. As we have discussed before in the previous lectures, and while discussing about the basic concepts, we discussed that purchase is an expense and the purchase title is only used for the purchase of merchandise and goods only. Rest of the assets shall be recorded by their name. So the purchase of building should have been recorded by the name of building instead of purchase. So all you have to do is to reduce the purchase account and to post the building account on part of purchases. So purchase account shall be credited. For reducing it, you have to credit it, and building account should have been debited. Now you have to debit the building account. Then wages paid for extension of building was debited to wages account. As we have discussed before, that capital expenditure are recorded by the name of the asset and revenue expenditures are expensed out. Now as this is paid for extension of building, it is a capital expenditure. So this should have been recorded by the name of building, but the accountant recorded it by the name of wages account. So all you have to do is to reduce the wages account, and for reducing the wages expense account, you have to credit the expense account. So wages account shall be credited, and it is a capital expenditure. It should be recorded by the name of asset. So the building account shall be debited. Now let us take a look about the expenses which create double impact on either on debit side or the credit side. So on example number 1, we have salaries paid amounting to 500 was credited to salaries account. Now as we know that expense is recorded on the debit side whenever it is incurred, but here he has credited the expense account. Now all you have to do is to reduce the expense account and to debit the real expense account. Therefore, you will have two impacts on the debit side. One is the original entry that should have been debited, and the other one is to reduce the credit side. So you will have two impacts on the debit side, and 500 plus 500, then 1,000 shall be debited, and there is nothing to write on the credit side. Therefore, the suspense account shall be credited by 1,000. Then on example number 2, same mistake has been repeated. That rent paid amounting to 600 was credited to rent account as 60. Now you have to do two works here as well. First, you have to reduce the thing which has been recorded wrongly at the credit side, and you have to record the original entry on the debit side as well. So there will be two impacts on the debit side now. One is to reduce that 60, so you'll have to debit the rent account by 60, and the original entry of 600 that should have been recorded on the debit side, now you will record it. So the total amount shall be 660, and there is nothing to write on the credit side, so the suspense account shall be credited by 660. So the entry shall be rent account debit and suspense account credit by 660. Now that's all for today's lecture. If you have any question regarding today's lecture, you can put your question into the comment section, and that shall be answered into the next videos. Till then, good luck.